Thank you so much, AIOS and Dr. Saurav Sinha, for giving me this opportunity to present along with these esteemed panelists and chairpersons that we have today for the afternoon session. My topic is blunt trauma in a patient with iritis and macular edema. So just let me go through a case presentation that I had a couple of years ago. And this was a 30-year-old male history of ball while playing cricket, and when he came movement associated with photophobia, watering, and there was also a decrease in vision which was associated with some floaters. There was no relevant past history, ocular history, and there was no significant family or social history as well. On examination, the right eye seemed to be absolutely fine. In the left eye, the visual acuity had reduced to 6/60, and the anterior chamber showed presence of cells and flare. No traumatic cataract or no phagodonosis was noted. However, the pressure was a little on a higher side at 26 millimeters of mercury. This is how exactly the picture looked on presentation. When I had an examination, when I did the examination of the fundus, the left eye showed few AVF cells. There was a loss of foveal light reflex on the macula, and the peripheral retina showed few whitish reflex suggestive of commotio. However, no trauma, no tears or breaks were noted in the periphery on scleral
मैंने
indentation.
मैसेज किया डॉक्टर अतुल धवन का सर.
Sorry?
Okay, I would request people to mute the mic so that Vedant can speak uninterrupted.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you. So this was the picture at presentation where we can see that there is a loss of foveal reflex here.
प्रशांत जी,
And we can also see the presence of
स्पीकर की
the
लिस्ट
commotion
जो
in
है
the
ये मेरी
periphery.
आज की, तो इनके नंबर मिल सकते हैं क्योंकि ज्वाइन करके फोन करके वो बोलो. जो भी
So
ज्वाइन
back end, please mute everybody.
ईमेल नहीं पहुंची तो हम थोड़ी कॉल करेंगे उनको.
Hello. Can you mute back end? Please mute everybody. We don't want any disturbance. Otherwise, Vedant cannot speak and we cannot concentrate on what he's saying. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
So I also went ahead and did an OCT, and I was able to find that there was a loss of the ellipsoid zone here, and presence of intraretinal fluid in the retina. So differential diagnosis of could be an anterior uveitis, though there's a clear history of trauma. The other differential diagnosis could be a presence of a traumatic microhyphema, associated traumatic retinal detachment. Sometimes it could also be a branched retinal artery occlusion, white without pressure in the periphery, or the presence of myelinated nerve fiber. But clearly, this was a diagnosis of a traumatic iritis with macular edema. And I proceeded with the management of giving the patient a cycloplegic agent, homotropin twice or thrice a day, steroid agent like a prednisolone acetate or dexamethasone 4 to 6 times a day. It is always better to avoid topical steroids if there is an epithelial defect. Because the pressure was also on the higher side, I decided to start the patient on a beta blocker twice a day. On the third day, the patient felt better, though the visual acuity remained at 624. Though as the inflammation had reduced quite a bit, I had stopped the cycloplegic drops and I decided to taper the steroids over a period of time and asked him to come back after 2 weeks. He was much better, and at follow-up at 1 month, his OCT seemed to be perfectly fine and there was no other problem. So moving on to the main topic here, the ocular trauma is one of the major important public health problems with a male to female ratio of 4:1. And it is also another important preventable vision loss across all the age groups, has a devastating impact on both individual and society. Various classifications are seen in cases of injuries, but the most common one which is used is the Birmingham Eye Trauma Terminology System. We also have a classification based on open globe injury and closed globe injury. The blunt trauma is what I'm going to speak on, and it refers to closed globe injuries caused basically by contusions. And these usually occur at the site of impact or at a distant site. The modes of injury could be direct blow or an accidental trauma. The mechanisms are usually coup injury or counter coup injury. That could be a direct force impact or a compression force impact. There could be a rebound wave force or an indirect force. And the modes of damages which could result in these problems could be either mechanical tearing or shearing. damage to tissue cells, vascular damage, trophic changes, and delayed complications can also be expected in cases of blunt trauma. Pathophysiology is usually the pushing of the iris diaphragm, which causes the expansion of the peripheral structures outwards. And these transmitted shock waves cause deformation injuries, resulting in stretching and tearing of ocular tissues. In retina, it is mainly because of the shock waves and which lead to the disruption of photoreceptors and injury to the RPE junction. The photoreceptor processes are more susceptible as they are not suspended by the Muller cells as compared to the remaining neurosensory retina. The whitening of the cell, which we see as commotio, is because of the fragmentation of the photoreceptor outer segments and the intracellular edema of the RPE. It is to be noted that there is no intercellular edema present in blunt trauma. So when a patient presents to you, it is important to do a systemic evaluation to identify that the patient is medically stable. Take an important ocular history as per date, time, the cause of injury, whether the patient was under influence of alcohol or not, and the time of injury in cases of medical legal issues. Complete clinical examination as described here. Sometimes it is also important to do a fundus photo OCT, and in patients where the central defect may be observed maybe on confrontation fields, visual field, and a multifocal ERG may also be required. OCT serves as an important tool in patients with commotio, and it is seen that the major site of disruption is at the photoreceptor outer segment and the RPE junction. Several OCT findings, including the foveal thickness, have been identified to be the possible predictors of visual outcome. And one such classification is the AN classification that was based on the cone outer segment and the inner segment and the external limiting membrane, which was classified into 4 grades, and depending on the grades, the outcome was noted, beginning with increase in the reflectivity of the ellipsoid zone in grade 1, loss of reflection in the inner segment, outer segment tips, loss of reflection in the IZ and the ellipsoid zone, and grade 4, which was seen as the loss of reflection in all the layers. So this is how Anne had classified and in AGO. The OCTA is also one of the important tools which help us to identify if there are any microvascular changes. Though significant macrovascular changes have not been identified, but it has also been seen by Montario et al. In his study that an early decrease in vessel density in the superficial and deep capillary plexus, along with decrease in the radial peripapillary capillary plexus, was noted at 1 month, which gradually normalized by 6 months. To summarize the treatment, the empirical management would include a cycloplegic agent, a steroid agent, an IOP lowering agent like a beta blocker. Antibiotics need to be given in patients where there is an epithelial defect or there is a globe rupture. In patients where there is not much inflammation, NSAIDs have also been shown to act wonderfully. The follow-up is usually 3 to 5 days. It's always important to check for the corneal epithelium, the EC reaction, check for the IOP and do a fundus examination. If inflammation is noted to be resolved, the cycloplegic agent can be withheld and the steroids can be tapered over a period of time. However, if there is an unresolution, the steroid agents can be increased according to the need. OCT should be repeated usually after 3 to 4 weeks. And it has been observed that the clinical course in such patients is usually good. Only close observation is required. The retinal whitening resolves spontaneously, usually without any visual compromise in 4 to 6 weeks. However, in some cases where there is permanent visual damage, it can occur if there is a pigment epithelial disruption. Sequelae such as macular hole or RP pigment epithelium mottling may also result in suboptimal visual recovery. Some of the complications we can see moving forward in 2 to 3 months may include traumatic glaucoma, traumatic macular holes, retinal detachment, late traumatic cataract or subluxation, and widespread chorioretinal atrophy. So it is important that while most of the some patients may have reduced visual acuity, most 6% of the patients involved with macular involvement are permanently visually impaired at visual acuity of less than 6/9. And it is equally important that the follow-up continues at least 2 to 3 months after trauma, and to perform gonioscopy looking for any angle recession and to look for any breaks or detachment with indirect ophthalmoscopy at every visit. Thank you so much.
Dr. Vedant for a crisp presentation. In the meantime, I asked Dr. Shilpi to please share her screen, and I take this opportunity. Dr. Ajay Arora, can you would you like to add something to this? Can you
So
give a-
I'll just ask Vedant, you followed up this case, Vedant, over the years?
Sir, I followed it up for 3 months. I called the patient once every month. I also explained it to him that if there was any increase in the floaters, or if there was associated flashes or floaters which he would see, then he needs to come back immediately.
No, you had some signs on the OCT. Did this patient eventually develop any macular hole?